Hello friends, welcome back to my channel and to another Plan With Me video. This week we are memory planning the week that was January 27th through to February 2nd, and we are using this beautiful kit from Planiface. It wasn't originally in my lineup, but I needed a kit to fill in this kind of weird week, the transition week between January and February. And generally in February, I like to use like pink and red kits because, of course, Valentine's Day is in February. So I wanted a kit that kind of depicted summer, but wasn't too over the top. And this kit was absolutely stunning, and I feared that if I didn't pull it in, it might be one of those kits that like lives in my collection forever. So I decided that this kit was going to be it. I also paired it with a magenta, like a really, actually no, I'm not even going to say it's really old, with an SPC like magenta pink foil kit. I was going to say it was old because it has the old whimsical bow pattern on it, and I don't like the whimsical bow at all. It's like my least favorite foil bundle of them all, so I try not to use them where I can. But the color just fit perfectly, and I hadn't used a fun foil yet. And when I was actually debating between lemongrass and pink. I think Cat of Peace, Love, Plans and Reads used lemongrass with this kit, and I was set on lemongrass. And then when I was flipping through my foils, I saw this magenta color, and I was like, Again, the magenta had been in my stash for a long time, and I just thought, we're going pink. Pink is my favorite color. Let's go full steam ahead. So that is what we did, and I'm actually really obsessed with how this spread turned out. I cannot for the life of me recall what happened during this week, so doing this voiceover with you guys is going to be a reminder for myself, because, again, we're basically at a point where, as I do this voiceover, it's mid-November. We are approaching January 2026, and I am literally sharing a January 2025 spread with you all. So, enough said. But we'll try and remember everything together. Again, without looking at things while I'm talking to you guys, I don't remember if anything exciting happened. So, it's going to be a surprise for the both of us. But this week, again, sidebar, standard, you know how it is. If I'm using a Planiface spread, it is generally the same standard sidebar every week. So we have the 2 full boxes. This kit did come with a tall box Fashion Girl, so I have, of course, used her. I've kind of chopped up my foil to make it work for the double box scenes. And then I've just scattered the rest of the foil everywhere else. Surprisingly, this week I did actually mark a highlight of the week in my sidebar. So I marked that we started our 3rd IVF collection cycle this week. For anyone who is new here, of course, hi, hello, and welcome. But as of January, or this particular week, my husband and I had been undergoing IVF treatment for a solid 12 months. So this was our 3rd egg collection cycle. So that was kind of a highlight for us, because if you haven't seen my previous video, or my previous videos, I should say, in November of 2024, we did a transfer. So we were planning to put one of our frozen embryos back, but unfortunately the embryo did not defrost. It was our last embryo, and because Christmas was approaching and the clinic closes through December into January, we had to then wait until January to start a new cycle. So that's kind of why it was a bit of a celebration and a highlight of the week, because we had waited essentially 2 months to start again. Anyway, on to our plans for the week. So first things first, on Monday, the first thing that I marked was that it was Aussie Day or Australia Day. I have said it before, I will say it again. I don't celebrate Australia Day. There is obviously a lot of controversy around Australia Day and what it essentially, quote unquote, celebrates. I don't celebrate. It was just me essentially marking that I was off work, if that makes sense. even though it was a public holiday, our IVF clinic was open, and because we were preparing to start our third egg collection cycle, I did have a blood test that morning. You guys, again, know the drill. You've been around for a while. After a blood test, I usually get myself a McDonald's coffee. Occasionally, I'll get McDonald's breakfast. This day was no exception. When I got home, I did mark that I watched some YouTube and took a little nap. I unfortunately had a migraine this day. And then I did actually mark that this was the day, so we would have got a call to say that my hormone levels were at like the level that they needed to be in order for us to start our IVF collection cycle. So I've marked that we started our IVF collection cycle that night, and that was the first night of injections. And then I marked that I had an early bedtime. Sometimes injections take a huge toll on me, so given that I had a migraine and wasn't feeling great already this day, obviously going to bed was the best thing I could have done. Also, they don't completely match, but I love that my nails are green and kind of blend in with the spread. I only just noticed. Anywho, Tuesday. So Tuesday, the first thing that I marked at the top of the day there is work. It was a 40-degree day this day. So coming off the back of a migraine, not feeling so hot, and then having a 40-degree day, you can imagine I was living my best life. I then had to call the patient support team at the IVF clinic this day about our invoice cost, because essentially at our IVF clinic, the cycle prices change. They absolutely scandalous, but they have 2 price rises a year. And I was in a disagreement in what they were charging us for this particular cycle. I also think we had a credit, like there was a period of time where there was like credits and overcharges and things like that. So I wanted to call them and apply any credits, make sure the cost price was correct, etc., because these cycles are not cheap. For anyone who may be curious, in Australia, going through a private clinic, which is what we did, I think when we started our very first cycle, it was like $11,000 up front. Now you do get almost half of that back through Medicare, but you obviously have to pay the cost up front. So with each cycle increasing in price, I think at this point we were sitting at a $14,000 cycle. Again, that is up front. You get just under half back. So I wanted to make sure that whatever credits we had were applied. I wanted to make sure that actually charged the correct price, because obviously I don't want to lose $1 if I don't have to lose $1. I then marked that this evening I had a maths catch up. So because I went to bed early the previous night, I didn't watch Maths or Married at First Sight. So I played catch up on this day. I then marked that I did some colouring in, and then I watched Maths in real time, or Married at First Sight in real time that night. And then I marked injections again for the night. Wednesday, I have marked work, and then I marked that I had tech issues at work. I don't know what it is, but like working from home sometimes my system just doesn't want to cooperate, and this was one of those days. So I marked that. I then marked that I had back-to-back beatings. Oh my god. Back-to-back meetings. Bit of an emotional beating, I guess you could say, because this was like we were having ongoing discussions about returning to work with no notice. We were losing half of our team, like a lot was happening, so we were having back-to-back meetings all day about it. And then marked that I did some more colouring, so I was obviously heavy in my colouring era at this point. I watched Married at First Sight, I did my injections, and then this night I started reading Never Never. On Thursday, at the top of the day, I marked that I was so incredibly tired. Did I not have a blood test? Oh yeah, okay, the following day. So I was tired. I marked that I showered before work, which sometimes I do if I'm feeling tired, to try and wake myself up, refresh myself before the day ahead. And then I marked work. I then marked that I had another meeting about the back to office situation, and specifically made mention that my manager was angry. She was just not happy with how everything was processed and how it was delivered to us and that sort of thing, because we were one of the teams that had been doing the whole go to office, show face, do all of the right things, even when other teams weren't, right from like when COVID cleared and you're allowed to go back to work. I then marked that it was a long day, so I didn't finish work until 5:25, and whilst that kind of is a normal day, I was starting work at 7:30, so I wasn't working like a 9 till 5, it was a 7:30 till 5:25, so it was a long day. I then marked that I listened to some ASMR while I did some more colouring, and then again I did mark injections for the evening. Friday, once again, I had another blood test. Again, got McDonald's on the way home. I marked that I had a work, that I did a voiceover, that once again I was so tired. Again, IVF hormones are no joke. When you have those things coursing through your veins, the fatigue, the hormones, just all of it, it's a lot. So obviously the heat, the hormones, the long work days, it was just getting to me, and I was really tired. Again, for anyone who doesn't know, my husband does come with me to every blood test. I do get a lot of anxiety around needles, which is funny because, you know, IVF, lots of needles. So he comes with me every morning, and then he goes off to work, and then because we go in one car, I have to go back in and pick him up when he gets home that night. So that is what I did. I then got a call this day to say that I needed to add in a second injection to my injection schedule. Usually that's what happens. You add like a hormone stimulant, and then you add another one that stops you from ovulating as your hormones develop your eggs. So that's what we did this night. And then this night, being Friday night, the movie of choice, we were still in our Avengers rewatch. Well, our Avengers watch. And we watched Avengers Infinity War. On to the weekend, on Saturday, I marked that I slept until 11 a.m. When I did eventually wake up, I marked that I did some filming. My husband and I watched I'm a Celebrity. We were catching up because it's on at the same time at Married at First Sight, and because I watched Married at First Sight, we usually watch I'm a Celebrity on catch up. So that's what we did this day. We also watched Beast Games. I marked injections again, and then that night we watched Ant-Man and the Wasp. And then finally, on to Sunday, I marked that I had a super lazy morning, did some more filming, I did some laundry, I marked chilling with my doggos, that I had some coffee, watched Married at First Sight, and then of course we finished out the evening with injections. I think I tried to make a point of like marking every night we did injections and all of that sort of thing, and like tracking my IVF cycles more in 2025, just so that when I looked back I knew like what was happening at that time. So yeah, I marked that. And anyway, I'm showing you through my leftovers. That is it for this spread. I hope you have enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye.